Hi.
So I think the recording's already started.
Okay.
Um,
I don't I don't really know. Do you think that the session organizer is going to come in and get us?
I hope so.
Okay. All right, well, we'll see.
Hope so. Goodness. Yeah, my plans got totally messed up, but this is fine. I hope Ming makes it.
Me too. She just texted that she just got on a shuttle, so I don't know how long the ride is.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not long.
So how are you doing?
Good. Finishing up the summer session with my students. So they submitted their final projects yesterday, and I'm gonna work on grading them over the next few days. But the class went well. It was the online live class,
Okay.
rhetorical theory.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
I
a
think
really good group.
that's good.
Yeah, they were really participatory and collaborative with each other and stuff. So that was nice.
I'm not sure why they're downplaying online live because I think it works really well for especially upper division courses.
It does, and the online students really like it. They say every semester about how it's a different experience than they used to having because they don't get that interaction, and they really like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
students like it a lot.
Does my camera look fuzzy? It looks a little fuzzy to me.
Um, a little bit, yeah. I mean, not terrible.
Okay. Not sure what's up. Could be dirty.
Yeah, it's probably
Of course, I have nothing to wipe it. Yeah, I do. I have something. I don't know.
according to the website, we have 21 people that are planning on attending.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good. Did you see the opening session?
I did not. I forgot. I was thinking it was yesterday and I knew I couldn't make it because I was teaching. And then I looked on today and it was actually there was something like an opening session this morning. Oh, there's our room.
Hi, everyone. I believe you can hear me now. Can anyone hear us?
I can hear you.
Thank you, Christine.
Not sure about the room though.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear us?
I saw Ming walk in.
This is very odd. Oh, okay. I believe you can hear us. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Um, this is where it's a bit strange being delivering this way. So thanks for bearing with us as we try to figure out if you can hear us. I'm Kimberly Harrison. I direct the WAC program at Florida International University, and I had really planned to be there in person today and still hope to make it before the conference is over. But I am grateful for the conference organizers for making remote a possibility when things come up unexpectedly. So today we're talking about our WAC micro-credentialing efforts. Um, and we'll start, if we could go to the presentation overview slide. Oh, I'm getting some questions from Ming, our associate director, who's actually in the room with you. We cannot hear you at all.
So can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So how do I advance the slide? Oh, sorry. Okay, all right.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so you can hear us and we can hear you. Okay, so today what we will try to cover is we'll talk about micro-credentials in like the larger context in our local context. We'll introduce our two current WAC micro-credentialing courses, one student-facing and one is faculty-facing. We'll share with you our assessment data from the two courses, the two sessions that we've offered of these badges, and then end with some advice if you're planning to start a similar program at your institution. All right, we can go to the next slide. So micro-credentials. In higher education, micro-credentials are usually a response to business and industry's desire for an easily accessible credentials of skills that they value in their hiring needs. So higher ed's embracing of micro-credentials is a means to support and verify, to support industry expectations while providing students with marketable skills. When we talk about micro-credentialing, you'll also hear the term badging, and badging is often used interchangeably with micro-credentials. The first page, the first slide in our that introduced the title of our talk showed the micro-credential, how a micro-credential might look for a student. These are they're electronic badges. They're clickable, and at different institutions, what you find when you click on them is different. At some institutions, you'll see a portfolio of work or a sample of work. At our institution, you click and you see the learning outcomes for the badge course. So these electronic badges can be displayed online and LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. FIU is one of a number of universities that has experimented with micro-credentialing programs. Others include Purdue, University of Michigan, SUNY, CUNY, and University of Minnesota. Now, our local context, we'll go to the next slide. Why a WAC badge at FIU? We really found that, one of our underlying arguments is that micro-credentialing is has good potential for WAC expansion. At FIU, we saw this need for four main reasons. FIU is the largest Hispanic serving institution. 64% of our students are Hispanic, and over 60% of our first-year writing students identify as multilingual writers. However, as at many institutions, there's not enough opportunity and effort and support for faculty in learning effective strategies for working with multilingual writers. So that's one of the needs that we sought to address with a WAC badge. We were also seeing evidence that there was an increasing desire for WAC programming. And we needed to find a way to generate funding to support faculty in gaining more WAC experience. There was also a growing interest in micro-credentialing, and that's related to the fact that FIU's recent QEP focused on micro-credentialing. It was entitled Critical Skills in the 21st Century, and through the QEP, we developed 3 badges. One was in artificial intelligence, one was on thinking and communicating and data, and one was in emotional intelligence. And with the QEP, most of you wouldn't be surprised to hear this, another office was formed, and this office was the Office of Micro-Credentialing. So in addition to these 3 badges that started with the QEP, this office is charged with developing more badging courses. And this is well supported by the provost and upper administration. So another reason we thought WAC, that micro-credentialing was valuable for expansion of our WAC program is that, we looked to advice from Michelle Cox, Jeff Galen, and Dan Mesler in their book, Sustainable WAC, and they've encouraged us to think about where are the hubs? Where's the energy in the university? What are the partnerships that could be valuable for WAC? And our last IWAC talk, Ming and Christine and I talked about building a program through strategic partnerships. And because of the positioning of the Office of Micro-Credentialing, we felt that they could be a valuable strategic partner for us. We define the partnership as one that is, supportive. We support their efforts. At the same time, because this is a course that's offered by WAC, it's titled a WAC course. It's something that helps us build our program identity as well. So those are the 4 main reasons why we decided to move forward with a WAC micro-credentialing effort. And if we could go to the new slide, that would be great. In order to get this started, we partnered with a faculty fellow in the Office of WAC Microcredentialing, and I'm sorry, in the Office of Microcredentialing. And the faculty fellow and I put in a proposal. In the proposal process, we learned that funding would not be given to just a faculty effort. So because of that reason, we decided to couple the faculty-facing white badge with a student-facing white badge. And Ming will talk more about the details of this in her talk, but just as an quick overview, the student-facing badge, we design a lot of it, but then faculty can modify based on their courses, and in their WAC course, they design parts of it, but we'll go into more detail about that later. We requested a budget of to support faculty's efforts and to support WAC programming. We asked for $1,500 per to be funded for each faculty member, with each cohort around 10 to 15 faculty. And we also requested funding for our WAC associate directors for summer work. The total budget that we were funded for was $70,000. We have gone over because of the demand for the course. We ended up funding more than the 10 to 15 allocated through the budget. I would say keys to the successful outcome of the proposal. If you're thinking of putting a proposal together like this, I think it really helped us, one, to understand the values and the growth plans of the Office of Microcredentialing, and it really helped to partner with the faculty fellow there. And it was also essential to show increasing demand for WAC programming, because they wanted to fund something that would show success. So I think those are two keys. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Christine to explain more about the faculty-facing badge.
Thank you. So as Kimberly just explained, our partnership with the Office of Microcredentialing has led to the launch of our WAC faculty badge. We are currently in our second summer offering this badge. And on the screen, you can see the timeline process that leads to the course. We solicit applications mid-spring semester and then make decisions by the end of the semester. Faculty take the badging course with us in the summer, and then they can integrate the student-facing badge into their upcoming fall course. The badging course itself lasts for 6 weeks and includes a combination of online asynchronous work and also live Zoom sessions. We can go to the next slide. When faculty apply to our badging course, they identify the specific course in which they would like to integrate the student badge. They explain their motivations and their intentions for applying, and then they describe their current pedagogical practices associated with writing. Although we would love to accept all faculty, we do have limited funding, as Kimberly explained, and so we have to make some decisions about which faculty to accept and why. So as you can see on the screen, we developed 5 criteria to guide our selection process. In developing this, we tried to take a really holistic approach, focusing on not only the fit of the proposed course within the faculty badge content and each faculty member's understanding or interest in writing, but also the potential impact of the student badge at the program or department level, the sustainability of the faculty continuing to offer the badge, and the potential to strengthen connections between WAC and various programs or departments on campus. Last summer, we accepted 18 faculty, and this summer we accepted 23 faculty. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So here you can see the many different departments and programs that are represented in both of our cohorts. The diverse areas of expertise that our faculty bring to the badge is really one of the strengths. During our 6-week course, we meet on Zoom 4 times so that faculty have the chance to discuss course content with us and also with one another. The cross-disciplinary conversations give faculty the opportunity to share ideas and approaches, ask questions, and receive feedback from not only members of the WAC team, but also colleagues in other disciplines. And each summer, faculty have reported that these cross-disciplinary Zoom discussions are one of the most valuable and enjoyable parts of the 6-week course. The main goal of the faculty badging course is to support faculty from various disciplines in teaching the critical skill of writing and incorporating high-impact practices into their course design. In addition, given our context at FIU, the course also equips faculty with primary principles for teaching effectively with writing in a multilingual majority university. So on the screen, you can see the specific learning outcomes we have for the faculty course. Specifically at the end of the course, faculty should be able to describe best practices of teaching with writing, recognize that students come to the course with a wide range of resources, describe and apply various approaches to responding to and assessing student writing, apply best practices for teaching with writing in their discipline, and reflect on the application of teaching with writing in accordance with their own disciplinary conventions. So to meet the objectives, we do cover various topics throughout this 6-week course, including how to design discipline-specific writing assignments, the tenets of transparent assignment design, the importance of embracing a process-based approach to teaching writing, strategies for responding to student writing, and leveraging the benefits of multilingualism. Faculty who earn the badge are qualified to embed the student-facing badge into their course so that they can then teach discipline-specific writing to their students and act as ambassadors for effective teaching of writing in their respective units. We can go to the next slide. So as you can see, each week of the 6-week course has a specific focus. Week 1 is about laying the groundwork, introducing faculty to best practices for teaching with writing. Faculty are asked to read and discuss texts with statements from the WAC Clearinghouse, 4Cs, and NCTE, with an explicit focus on the ways in which these best practices connect to writing and communicating within their discipline. 2 important approaches that we emphasize during week 1 inform a large amount of the work that faculty do in the coming weeks during the course. This includes writing in the disciplines and also right to learn, and the ways in which both of these approaches are important to teaching writing in various disciplines. Weeks 2, 3, and 4 focus on helping faculty revise or create a specific writing assignment that they will use in their upcoming course. The writing assignments have an explicit WID or right to learn focus, and they are specific to each faculty member's particular course and discipline. Throughout these weeks in the course, faculty revise their assignments multiple times in response to feedback from us and also the material that we're covering in the course. They also create an assessment tool that can be used with their assignment and a few additional teaching artifacts designed with multilingual students in mind. The final 2 weeks of the course are devoted to faculty working on a teaching with writing philosophy statement, where they formalize some of their takeaways about teaching with writing and put those in conversation with the specific disciplinary conventions and pedagogical goals that they have for their own course. So on the next slide, you will see some example from one of the faculty members who took our course during the first cohort. This is really just to help illustrate what the faculty badge course looks like in practice. This man's name is Dr. Mike Hampton. He was part of our summer 2022 cohort. He's from the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. So as I previously mentioned, during week 1, faculty are introduced to WAC frameworks of WID and right to learn. So here you can see an example from Dr. Hampton's reflection on the ways in which these concepts apply to his particular discipline. As you can see in the parts I've highlighted in yellow, during the first week in the course, Dr. Hampton is beginning to make connections between his own teaching and the important principles of teaching with writing, including discipline-specific genre awareness in the first paragraph, and then also writing in the disciplines and right to learn, which he emphasizes in the second part of his reflection. We can go to the next slide. In week 2, when the faculty begin working on or creating, creating or revising their specific assignment for their course, Dr. Hampton decided to design a writing project for his hospitality marketing strategy course. His writing assignment asks students to analyze a business website according to marketing aspects and prepare a report that would be shared with the general manager or marketing director for the business. During these weeks, when we are introducing these ideas to this faculty, we are really emphasizing the importance of clearly identifying genre, audience, and purpose for students when designing assignments. And so here you can see the ways in which Dr. Hampton's assignment specifies each for his students. The next slide. In weeks 3 and 4, faculty continue to develop the assignment by creating assessment tools and other teaching artifacts that support their WIT or Right to Learn assignment. For his work in the course, Dr. Hampton created a rubric for the marketing analysis report during week 3, and then a self-editing exercise for students during week 4. Dr. Hampton revised both artifacts after receiving feedback from the WAC team. So for instance, on the screen, you can see a portion of the rubric that Dr. Hampton created. This is the revised version where he decided to divide the 10 possible points into 5 for identify and 5 for explain as a way of directing students' attention to both requirements as they are writing. One of the concepts that we discuss with faculty is the importance of aligning rubrics with the assignment goals so that they are clearly assessing what the assignment asks of students. And since Dr. Hampton's assignment clearly or explicitly asks students to both identify and explain, he decided to revise the rubric to include this as well. Next slide. The final 2 weeks in the course are devoted to revising assignments from the previous weeks and also working on a teaching with writing philosophy statement. This is a teaching philosophy in which faculty describe what they have learned about teaching with writing specifically and how they plan to do so in their own discipline. We ask faculty to make connections between the material from our course, including WAC principles, and also their own plans for teaching in the coming course so that it's clear that they're able to put these in conversation with one another, and also the ways in which they view themselves as a teacher and a writer or expert in their particular discipline. The next slide. On the screen is a quote from Dr. Hampton's teaching statement where he shares that not only does he plan to integrate the marketing analysis report that he developed in the WAC badging course, but he's also designed with focus active learning exercises to give his students further practice with discipline-specific writing. We offer this quote here as an example of one way that we measure success in our badging course, that faculty gain a deep enough understanding of best practices for teaching with writing that they can then apply these practices on their own in their own discipline. So on the next slide, you'll see we have a clip of a video to show you. Dr. Hampton was generous enough to speak to the 2023 cohort of faculty about his experiences integrating the student badge into his courses, and he agreed to let us play a snippet of his
It should
talk
be
for
like a
you.
link there, so we include the link there. So how can get it work there? That's the whole link. Yes.
Applied the micro-credential into the course. We started the first semester with one course, and the second semester we added it into a second. So the results have been so good that we decided to integrate it into 3 courses beginning in the fall. So really getting great feedback from students on the experience that they're having with that. I put together some examples, Kimberly, if you can share the screen with me, and I'll put up some examples of how we've integrated it into the course. So
yeah, Mike, you should be able to see it.
Everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the course that I'm going to show you the example on is our tourism destination marketing course. This is a required course for all students. So everyone that goes through the tourism program must take this course.
Zoom in.
So what we've done in each of the modules, what I'm showing you is the fully online version. In each of the modules, there's extensive writing required across the board anyway. So it was not easy, but relatively straightforward in how we could integrate the micro-credential and the writing across the curriculum project into the course. So here's just one example. In this module, we address the issue of branding of the tourism destination. And so in order to continue with that idea, what we did was we took the writing as rewriting, where the student had to do a self-editing exercise. And we asked them to develop a brand statement for a tourism destination, to create an initial draft, and then to go through the self-editing process and to come up with a second draft of that brand statement. So the student not only got content that was there, but then they had the practical application of how do we take that content that we were just exposed to and use that in some feasible way. So they were able to go through and apply that. They got feedback as they went through the process on how that self-editing worked. And of course, they also got feedback on how their branding statement aligned with the criteria necessary for that. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is that the students also have to learn how to develop a marketing plan for a tourism destination. So in this module, in fact, module number 6, the students go through the material that they learn all of the elements that go into that. There are several exercises that they are engaged to, but one of the activities from writing across the curriculum is to do a genre analysis. So a marketing plan is a critical component of genre for hospitality and tourism. So we interjected into the assignment a sample marketing plan. Now, I'm going to go back up here because one of the examples that they saw in the module was a tourism destination marketing plan. In fact, we used the one for the Greater Miami Convention and District Bureau. So we inserted that example into the writing across the curriculum assignment so that they could then go through that plan and look at each of the criteria for a genre analysis. And when we did it the very first semester, the students said, oh, I don't know, give me an example of how this criterion might apply to marketing plan. So what I did was in the second semester, you see in the red box at the bottom, is I gave them an example of what they might find in the genre analysis that would apply to that criterion. So this way they could start off through that process by having some real world examples. And then of course, as they work through the module, they're getting feedback from me along the way on what are each of those elements, why are they important, what do they do, and how to work. And then the culmination of the course, they have a final exam, but we interjected a final project where they then have to take the marketing plan project that they worked on in the genre analysis, and they actually have to develop a simple marketing plan themselves using key criteria that they got from the writing exercises into demonstrating that they could then apply that, not just recognize the elements, but use them. So that final project then integrated a model similar to what they saw in the Greater Miami Convention District example. So these are the instructions that you've been going through this exercise and the workshop. We've also learned how to write better and how to give instructions better. So what I did was I applied that and how the instructions were written for that final project. So there's an overview, why it's important, what they're going to be experiencing, and outlining the learning objectives that they were going to be covering in that assignment, and then the instructions for how to process it, mark the load that. And then the last thing is we are constantly gathering feedback. We give students a midterm survey to give us feedback on how things are going. And at the end of the semester, we do the same thing. And then we also get the spot feedback. So I just wanted to share one of the examples there were many positive elements that came back from it, which I mentioned at the very beginning. But this one in particular is just an example of generally what students are saying. Good writing skills were learned, which was an unexpected plus. The students do not, in the online courses, do not have a heads up that the writing across the curriculum micro-credential is integrated. So when they join the course, it could be a surprise to some of them, but I didn't get that reaction from anyone. So they all have felt, for the most part, in fact, I've seen no negatives, that this was something worthwhile, particularly because it gave them the chance to practice what they were getting in the content for each of the modules. So beyond the micro-credential, we've added additional, we call them active learning exercises, that give them the chance to practice their writing on each of the elements in each of the modules that are there. So not just the example like I gave you where they had to write a brand statement, but they may have to write something we do in marketing is write a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT. So when the student covers that content, we have them actually go through and practice writing how they would develop that SWOT analysis. So overall, we've gotten great feedback. We've learned a great deal. I have, as I've been working through it. And the good thing about the way that we have this structured is that the faculty that teach the face-to-face courses or the hybrid courses get the same kinds of exposure that we go through here. Although they can't integrate the micro-credential into their courses, the same principles are being applied in those face-to-face and hybrid courses, as well as what we're doing in the online group. So that's my spiel, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So hopefully that was helpful for you to hear Dr. Hampton speaking about his experiences with the student badge. And now I will turn it over to Ming, so she will speak more specifically about the student-facing badge.
We probably should add Mike as a co-presenter for this presentation.
Yeah, I agree. We should.
All right. Yeah, so in my part, I will talk about the student-facing badge. We'll start by showing you how it looks like. Yeah, just the next one. Yeah. So it looks like this, and there's a description of the student-facing badge. So as Kimberly mentioned earlier on, when we start to design the student-facing badge, we actually have the university strategic planning in our mind. So our university strategic planning encourages curriculum alignment with career needs to ensure employment readiness. So we definitely put that in mind as we develop this badge. By taking this micro-credential course, students will gain valuable experience with professional writing and also gain a vocabulary with which they will be able to talk about their professional ethos. So as Christine mentioned about the trained faculty, they actually embed the students facing badge into their different disciplinary courses. I should do this. So here is a list of the learning outcomes for the student-facing badge. So first of all, we want them to recognize the conventions of writing vary across different contexts. In students' first-year writing, they got the basic ideas of like audience purpose, genre, but they do not necessarily recognize that good writing sometimes vary across different disciplines. There are differences. So we want to set that foundation, but at the same time, we also want to build upon what they have learned in their first year. So we also want them to identify specific conventions, audiences, purposes, academic genres relevant to their particular discipline and tailor their writing style accordingly. And the third one, we focused on feedback literacy. So we do want students to be able to describe the role of feedback in improving writing and apply self-editing strategies. And the fourth outcome is associated with the major writing assignment that their professor assigned to them. So students should be able to develop a rhetorically effective text that demonstrate a strong professional writing ethos. And finally, we focused on the metacognitive skills as well. So we give students the metacognitive reflective writing assignment, so they will be able to reflect on learning within the micro-credential, including what they have learned about effective writing within their discipline, how to construct a rhetorically effective text, and the potential application of concept to different personal, academic, and professional writing context. So we aligned the content with the learning outcomes, the backward design principle, right? So with the first module focuses on the audience awareness, the conventions, and the idea of professional persona and how to cultivate a professional persona. And module 2 focuses on genre awareness. So students do a genre analysis in which they analyze the discipline-specific genre provided by the professor. So as you can see with Professor Hampton's example just now, he actually asked the students to analyze the marketing plan, right? The third one is to provide resources on how to benefit from feedback and how to give feedback. As I mentioned, the learning goal is to enhance the students' literacy on feedback. So students will learn self-editing strategies that can help them submit a polished final draft. And module 4 focused on the major writing assignments that their professor assigned to them. So they will need to understand the requirement of the task and really figure out the disciplinary conventions of the writing required. And students will learn how to unpack an assignment sheet, how to decipher disciplinary writing requirements. Actually, I learned about the decoding disciplinary thinking from Chris' workshop yesterday. So I definitely think I will incorporate that into our training for faculty next time. That's the advantage of attending conference like this, right? So module 4 is mainly about how help students to kind of through unpacking an assignment sheet to figure out the disciplinary thinking, disciplinary writing requirements. And then the final module focuses on reflection. And we do have a public-facing WAC newsletter. So we kind of framed this reflective writing as an article for our newsletter. So for the fall modules, faculty members, they have the freedom of rearrange the order of those as they see fit in their course structure. So they don't have to strictly follow this particular order here. So, so here are some tasks for the student-facing badge that we designed. So you can see what students are asked to do, but also you can see how we have really made that effort to ensure that the assessment in the student-facing batch do not overload faculty in terms of grading and response. Because as we probably all know, that one major concern for faculty to integrate writing into their courses is the grading workload, right? I still remember that when I first started my WAC work, one faculty just confessed that, I know writing is a good teaching tool, I will not use it. And the reason is that it's just too much, right? I do not have the time for grading. I'm already overstretched. I will use other tools. So although I know it's a good tool, I will not use it. So that comment, I think that's 80 years ago. It's very clear in my mind. So we have made every effort to try to kind of like make it manageable for the faculty. What faculty really needs to kind of like grade and give extensive feedback, that is actually their own assignment, right? So for this assignment, they will use the rubric developed by themselves in the faculty training portion of this micro-credential. And they design the tasks, and they also use their own rubrics for that assignment to assess students. So this module 4 is probably the most grading or time consuming for faculty, but for the others, it should be not that time consuming for the faculty. So here, I turn to our preliminary data on the faculty badge. So for the faculty badge, the data sources include the course stats, the surveys, and also the artifact that faculty submitted during this badging course. So the first cohort, we have 16 out of 18 faculty completed the badging. For the second cohort that just ended, we have 21 out of 23 faculty completed the badge. And for all the 4 faculty members who could not complete the badging badge, the dropout reason is their numerous responsibilities, the workload. But I was also thinking maybe we could have made it more clearer to them, the commitment, right, to the course, the different responsibilities they need to kind of like juggle. We need to make that more explicit to them before the course started. So that may further enhance our completion rate. We don't have the data from our second cohort yet for this final survey. The survey that I'm talking about here is a generic survey designed by our Office of Micro-Credential. So it's not a survey designed by us. So it's not, it's not kind of like tailored to the content of our course. Okay. For the first cohort, the overall satisfaction rate is high, right? 100. And in terms of the expectations meet, about 77% of the faculty members expressed that they grew more than they expected. And then about like 20% were saying like it's pretty much fulfilled their expectations. In terms of the knowledge gain, we have about close to 90, right, of the faculty members expressed that they are either more or much more knowledgeable about teaching with writing than peers who did not complete the badge. And I think within this number, we have about like close to 60 who were saying that they think they are much more knowledgeable. And here comes the, this is coming from the qualitative data of the survey. So, those two quotes are on the practical implications of course content. And I really like this first quote here, in which the faculty members talk about how she would utilize the content that she learned in the course. And she specifically talked about the different ways that she would utilize the content, the ideas, the concepts learned in the badging course to enhance her approach to writing. So really glad to see that. And the second quote also talks about how we have made an effort to provide practical recommendations with different scenarios. So we're not just looking at, say, for instance, the humanities course that's heavy with writing, or we're not just looking at courses with smaller number of students. So we consider different types of courses and different disciplines. So this faculty member kind of like appreciate that. And we also have a few faculty, representative faculty quote on the overall reaction to the course. So we're glad to see that they are, in addition to teaching writing, they were also talking about how they can make their course more engaging for students. So writing as a way of like engaging students. Also talking about some of the like non-traditional writing courses, right? So for the computer science courses or for math course, for physics courses, those faculties were able to design a writing assignment. So we definitely were happy to see that. But we constantly also are seeking faculty members' suggestions and feedback on how we can improve. So as you can see from the comment here, and this is not the only comment that faculty were mentioned that, well, there's a lot of work that we need to do. So this faculty member was saying like, it was a great deal of work and you must find time to complete the process. So that's definitely a challenge for us because we do want to cover, right? There's a lot of content to cover. We do want this experience to be rich learning experience for the faculty, but at the same time, they do need to find the time, right, to complete the work. So as I mentioned that we have the generic survey from the Office of Micro-Credential, but we also designed some midway survey. So we give surveys to faculty during the badging course and get some feedback so that we can make necessary adjustments along the way. So here are some items from our mid survey. So for instance, how do they feel about the peer feedback? Because we constantly encourage them to give peer feedback. And also we have synchronous Zoom sessions and we wonder what do they think about the time arrangement for the Zoom sessions. And also since Canvas is where they access all the materials and their tasks. So also we wonder whether the organization of the content works for them. And also the reading and writing support, okay, whether they are happy with the assigned reading and writing. So all of those feedback give us useful information on how we may revise the course content. Okay, so here we are talking about the assessment, the student assessment data. So from the student-facing badge, we actually do not have as much data for the faculty-facing badge, because for those student-facing badges, we do not have access to the different courses of our faculty, right? So the only data that we have is one, the course stats data, right? So how many students completed the badge? We have that number. And also the generic survey designed by our Office of Micro-Credential. So in fall 2022, there were 11 courses embedding the WAC badging, and altogether 141 students earned the badge. And for this past semester, we have 10 courses, and altogether we have 174 students who earned the badge. We do not require the faculty to make it mandatory in their courses. So most of the faculty members actually made it optional for students. And for the students badge final survey, okay, again, when asked about that their satisfaction rate, okay, so for both semesters, they have over 90% of the students who took the survey chose either very satisfied or satisfied. Expectation, okay, about 67% in fall and 80% in the spring of the students expressed that they grew more than they expected. And then about like 20% were saying like it's exactly what they expect. And in terms of the knowledge gain in fall, so we have some good numbers here. At least we are satisfied with this number right now. So over 93% of the students expressed that they are more or much more knowledgeable about learning with writing than peers who did not complete the badge. And finally, because we really considered the badge's capability to enhance the students' employment, so we were very glad to note that over 90% for both semesters of the students expressed that they will actually include the badge experience in the hiring process. Okay, that's what we want to see, and then that's what we actually encourage. So here are some feedback from the students. So overall, students have kind of like a positive sentiment towards the badge content, right? So they talked about how the course helped them with communication, how they see it applicable to not only their professional life, but also their personal life, right? They talk about how this experience is not just about their disciplinary writing, but it touches upon different aspects of writing, different genres of writing. And also one particular student mentioned that mentioned about the primary scientific literature, right? So which is common within the discipline, and it's important to kind of like understand that genre to stay updated within the field. So we were happy to see those comments. So based on our preliminary data, here is a list of revisions that we would like to make on faculty and students badge. So for instance, reduce the workload for the faculty badging content, update the readings to keep it more updated with some of the current hot topics. For instance, here, we're talking about integrate content on teaching with writing in the age of AI. That's definitely a really hot topic among our faculty right now. So we are going to update readings on that. As I mentioned earlier, maybe clearer explanations on the embedment of the student badge from earlier on. That's also part of the workload for the faculty. They need to understand how the embedment of the student badge, how to do that during their own faculty training badge stage, and also further encourage multimodal assignments. And also enhance the peer interactions among the participants. And then this is a comment that we got from the faculty members. They were saying that they really enjoyed the peer interaction time during Zoom, our synchronous session time. And for the students badge, we will enhance or improve students' metacognitive reflection prompt as needed. Ideally, we would like to get some students' feedback on the prompt that they get. But as I said, like we do have very limited data on the student-facing badge. So we don't have the direct contact with the students. But we were thinking of improving the metacognitive reflection prompt, as we do see those metacognitive reflection tasks as very, very important. And also adding maybe more engaging and interactive content. So we were trying to provide students the readings and the videos, but we were also thinking about maybe using some technology tools, for instance, PlayPosit, right, to kind of like make the course content more interactive for students. Also, since the badge is kind of like made optional by a lot of our faculty members, right? So we really want to motivate students to utilize this as an opportunity, right? So we are thinking of adding some motivational content to the first module to further foreground the value of the badge for students. So hopefully that would encourage more students to take this opportunity. And then maybe a pre-learning survey to learn something about the students' expectations, because for the final survey that the students were doing, they were asked about their expectations, right? So I think it may be meaningful to add a pre-learning survey to learn their expectations. And finally, we may ask a faculty to track the ratio of earners to learners, right? Again, we don't have the data of how many students are enrolled in the course and how many students completed the badge. So I think it's meaningful for us to kind of like know that ratio, right? It's a requirement from our Office of Microdential, but in terms of WAC assessment, I think it's a good assessment data for us as well. Okay, so we will keep prioritizing responding to the local needs of our faculty and students. One example is, as Christine mentioned earlier, is our commitment to teaching writing to our multilingual students population. So we'll keep that, and we'll definitely also keep the focus on reply and to reflect and apply in both faculty badge and students facing badge. Okay. All right. So next, I will turn it over to Kimberly to talk about lessons learned, challenges, and next steps to conclude our presentation here.
Thank you, Ming. Yeah, in addition to the lessons learned related to curriculum design and course content that Ming outlined, there's some lessons learned related to the process and program administration that we wanted to share as we conclude. I will say that we were pleasantly surprised with the faculty response to our call for participation. In total, we had 117 faculty apply to the program in our first 2 years. And I will say that that's even more encouraging because the rollout time was pretty tight. By the time we could issue the call for proposals, after getting bureaucratic approvals and so forth, faculty had a short window to get that application in, and then a short window before that course started. And that's something that, if we go forward with this, we want to try to remedy so that things aren't so rushed on that end. But even with the rush, we did have a really good response. We also learned that the micro-credentialing courses are a great way to build relationships with faculty across the disciplines in our university. A lot of times we rely on PD events, workshops, symposiums, open houses, and these are sort of they come for a few hours, they go. But now that we've, with this course, we're with them for 6 weeks. And we are seeing, even after just 2 years doing this, that we're building lasting relationships with a number of the faculty that we've worked with. They join our listserv, we see them at attendance at other of our events. They offered to share their materials that they developed with other faculty. So we're building a bank of resources that faculty have developed through the badging course. Mike Hampton, who you heard from, has also participated in an FIU News interview about our WAC efforts. And one of our badge graduates is on our Faculty Senate WAC committee now. So, I think we are building relationships with a number of faculty through these efforts. If you're thinking about doing such a program, when you initially think about your call for applications, we would encourage you to think about, are you extending the call to graduate faculty, undergraduate faculty, professional school faculty? When we sent ours out initially, we really didn't think that through, and we just focused on undergraduate courses. So in our first cohort, we turned away anyone from that were teaching graduate courses or who were in our medical school or law school. But we had a lot of interest from graduate faculty. And that interest continued in the second cohort. So for this course that we're finishing now, we did pilot accepting a few graduate faculty, and it's gone perfectly fine. I don't think that we were afraid that the materials were focused too much for undergraduates, but so far we're not seeing a problem serving both graduate and undergraduate faculty. Other things to consider it's going to be a lot more work than you expect, I will say. Designing the courses, working with the Office of Microcredentialing, as Ming showed in faculty feedback, these are intensive courses. So they require a lot of work for faculty. They require a lot of work for those of us running the course as well. There's a lot of time spent on faculty feedback. So just know that you'll probably underestimate the workload. We also underestimated the budget that we would need. As you know, we've already indicated, we accepted more faculty into each cohort than we planned because of the demand, and that wasn't budgeted for. But the Office of Microcredentialing were fine, supplying the extra money for faculty to attend. They were not as happy to supply extra money for summer WAC associate director work. So that's something that we should have built in a lot more in our initial budget. So if you're putting together a proposal for this, definitely think about how you're supporting your WAC coordinators or associate directors who are not funded during the summer. The other thing that we're learning that we've kind of struggled with, I guess this is a challenge, and it would be very different depending on each institutional context. But there was a lot more bureaucratic, time-consuming elements to designing and offering these courses than we expected. So there was a lot of negotiation with the Office of Microcredentialing as we argued for certain things that we really thought had to be in these courses, but that stretched the way they were defining microcredentialing courses, if that makes sense. So there was negotiation there. And I think part of that comes from, as I mentioned, the Office of Microcredentialing is a new office. They're just sort of charting their processes and their authority and their goals. So I think there was probably more negotiation since they were new than there will be later as they work with more faculty-facing badges. What they have been mostly doing are student-facing badges. So the faculty-facing badge presented some unique challenges as we wanted, as you saw in Christine's talk, to give faculty more autonomy in how they design their badges for their courses. So our next steps, our first 2 years were considered pilot, and we were funded for 2 years. So now we're at the stage where we request additional funding. We'll spend the fall semester collecting and reporting assessment data and putting in a proposal for new funding. As you see on the slide in our proposal, we did indicate, that later phases of this effort could include expansion of WAC team or using faculty, fellows, and across the disciplines to support these courses. So this is something that we're strategizing and thinking about as we consider sustainability of the microcredentialing WAC programming. So I will open it up for Q&A, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks. We'll be back. Thank you.
I'll go next. It's okay. No problem.
I had a question about what y'all were just talking about at the end, the things that you were integrating into these micro-credentials that were not seen as favorably by the Office of Micro-Credentialing. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. Like, were there things in the course that you had to take out? Were there, if you didn't have the Office of Micro-Credentialing looking over you, were there things that you would put in I'm curious about that kind of exchange between this office and how they conceived of micro-credentials.
Sure. It wasn't necessarily about, it was more about delivery. And I'll give you well, there are two examples that I think illustrate. For the faculty facing badge, part of the course is that they design, a major assignment that they embed in the student badge, right? And along with that assignment, they also design a feedback plan. And often that feedback plan includes a rubric. So in the way the badge courses are set up across the Office of Microcredentialing, every assignment is supposed to use the same scoring method, the same scoring rubric. So when they realized that each faculty member was designing their own rubric, that resulted in quite a few meetings to talk through, how do we get around the requirement that every assignment has exactly the same scoring method. We came to, it's not an ideal solution. The faculty member still uses their rubric or their scoring method for that assignment, because that is the only thing that makes pedagogical sense. But then we've designed a very short sort of checklist rubric that is housed in their micro-credential, that they, in addition to doing their rubric or their assignment method, feedback method, they have to go in and check that rubric. So they have to kind of do two in order for the micro-credential to move on and to be auto-generated. Because the way it's set up to be auto-generated is it has to, each of those badges has to have the same rubric that goes through. Does that make sense? And another similar, a similar challenge that Ming mentioned is for the faculty facing badge, we have to use the same end of course survey that's used across the board in every single student facing badge offered by FIU. So faculty are asked questions such as, did this course improve your chance of employability?
And also that question that I showed you about like, do you use this in the hiring process? That's the same for the faculty. Well,
and we try to, we try to just talk to faculty about these challenges, so, like sometimes we get feedback, do you have to remind us to complete the work? And do we have to complete every aspect? And we're just like, you kind of do, because if not, the badge isn't going to be generated. We have to have something in each field. So those are some of the difficulties.
it seems to me that office is kind of like obsessed with this rubrics. So everything like the student thinking that they want every assessment has to be associated with rubrics, and also every task that faculty did and complete, it has to be associated with rubrics as well. And as you probably know, that many of the faculty are against the rubrics, and they are taking like the ungrading approach, right? So that kind of like brings some conflict.
Hi, my name is Megan Kello, and I'm from the University of Washington in Seattle, and we are just launching a WAC program, which is very exciting, and I was super excited to see this presentation. So thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to think about this as a way to incentivize faculty involvement in their own development. My question, I have kind of a cluster of questions. One is, what is the incentive for participating for faculty and students? I think you said that they get a stipend for participating, but is it also tied up in any way with merit or promotion? I'm just curious what other kinds of faculty badges exist on campus. And then my other question is, what do you do if my institution doesn't have a micro-credentialing system in place? Is there any way you could imagine something like this, maybe less official, that could be created in a WAC program, if there isn't a micro-credentialing office?
Yes, yes. I'll speak and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. No, I forgot the first part of your question. because
Sorry, it was multi-part. What is the incentive for participating in the badges, and is it tied to merit promotion?
Yes. One other, other incentive is FIU has developed a teaching assessment strategy that encourages faculty to generate evidence of teaching success from 3 angles: from the students, like our student surveys, but also from peers and from self. So this course definitely provides faculty with evidence that they have received peer feedback on their teaching and that they've reflected on their teaching. So, they have many reflections that they can submit to indicate that they fulfilled the teaching assessment process advocated by the institution. So that's definitely one benefit. There are, Ming and Christine might know of some other badges, but there's not as many. Most of them are student facing, and that's why we ran into some of the challenges that we did. The Office of Institutional Assessment does offer an assessment badge for those of us who, work in assessment, but that's the only other one that I'm familiar with. And Ming or Christine, do you have any knowledge of?
You mentioned about our university's PVP. So for our university's PVP efforts, the university issues faculty 3 badges. One is emotional intelligence. So if they can incorporate that into their course, and also the AI, artificial intelligence badge, with teaching with artificial intelligence, and also data. What's it called? I forgot about, but something about data literacy. Yeah, data literacy. So I think those 3 are also understanding. Yeah. So those are the badges that I.
Yeah, there's a number of badges that students can, that can be incorporated into courses. Like our program has worked on, I think Christine worked on this one, like a collaborative learning badge that we put through the Office of Microcredentialing, and faculty can incorporate that into their course. So there's quite a few student-facing badges, and if you want to get more of an idea of those, if you log on to the FIU Office of Microcredentialing, you'll see a pretty extensive list. But also to your question about, if you don't have this office, what do you do? FIU got started by working with Education Design Lab, and that is, I'm honestly not sure. I'm sure if it's nonprofit, but they work with a lot of higher ed institutions, and they provide grants. So FIU did get some funding to launch the micro-credentialing effort. So that's something that you might look into. And I know Clio hosts quite a lot of, we host a lot of our micro-credentialing efforts through Clio. So that's something else to consider. Did we answer your question, Ming or Christine? Do you have anything else to add?
Just to add to that, the first part about incentive, our faculty members are required to submit their annual performance evaluation, right? Self-evaluation. So if that evaluation, it's specifically after faculty members whether they have received any incentivized course redesign. So that's something that this is something that they can identify with that pattern. And also whether they have revised their teaching philosophy. And then with that last assignment, we ask the faculty members to revise their teaching philosophy with writing, right? So they can count that as that category in their annual performance self-evaluation.
I thank you so much for your presentation. You've given me a lot to think about for my own institution. And I have to apologize in advance for my question because I have a feeling I just missed it, the answer to it. But as I understand, did I understand correctly that not all students in a class where the badge is offered have to earn the badge, right? Students opt into it.
Yes.
And so,
Some courses.
okay, so, and I think this is the part I missed. How do students opt in or opt out? Like, are they participating? I obviously don't want you to do your whole presentation over again, but can you summarize for me how students opt in or opt out that badging process? Like, I mean, are they doing parts of an assignment and not others, or how does that work?
They have to do,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, they have to do the projects so like the major writing project that the instructor designs. They still do that. But some faculty don't require them to do, for example, the genre analysis. That's not in their syllabus as a requirement. So students still have to do everything that's in the faculty members' syllabus, and and so they're still doing writing that the faculty designed in the course. But some faculty do not require them to do like the professional email, for example, or the genre analysis. So Ming, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
And logistically, when the faculty designed their Canvas site, when they embed the student-facing badge into their course, all of these modules that you see on the screen here automatically appear at the bottom of their current modules of whatever they've already designed for their own course. And then the faculty member decides, do they want to keep it separate so that students who are taking the badge can find them like underneath the other course modules? Do they embed them into their current course modules? So the faculty member decides how they want to integrate these badging modules into their course. And then the students who are doing the badge can find them. They're also labeled differently in the Canvas course so they can see them. And a lot of our faculty reported that even though it's optional, because some of these things are required for their actual course anyway, students realize that they're almost earning the badge just by completing the required course components. And so they just decide, okay, I'm going to get the badge because I really just have to do
Yeah.
one or two more things.
Yeah, and it reminds me of sort of choose your own adventure in a sense, or even our approach to labor-based grading. Like if you want, or a menu approach, like if you want an A, do these things. If you want a B, do these things. A C, so just add to that. If you want a badge, do these things. If you don't want a
Right.
badge, you still have to do these things, or yeah.
Right.
But in order to get the back, they have to. There's no like, I can choose the first three or I can choose the last. So the students have to complete all of those. Okay. But usually for this assignment, the week when writing to learn, that assignment, every student. Thank you so much. Not sure whether students will as we hope that we have fulfilled your expectation for this presentation. So you have a good start during the rest of the conference. Thank you. Please stay trouble.
So here's log out.
Yeah, of the